Hey guys, welcome back to the Society Podcast. I'm Isaiah.
I'm Pastor Levi.
And this week we're going to be talking about growing in your faith and evaluating yourself and kind of seeing the steps that you want to take to become a better Christian and a better person. So Pastor Levi, how can you evaluate yourself? How can you become a better Christian? That's a pretty big question, but What are some simple steps that we can take to kind of, better ourselves?
Yeah, simply, and kind of what this stems from, and something that's always just stuck with me. Paul says, listen, test yourself, make sure you're in the faith, and even the word pray, if you know the word pray in Hebrew, it's tefillah, and it's not just asking and it's not just talking, but that word also meant kind of a self-evaluation, looking at your life before a holy and a righteous God. And so self-evaluation can be tough. It can be hard, especially when you've got some hard parts of your heart, you've got some stubborn parts of your heart, or even looking at some things that you went through that maybe don't feel so good, that weren't really ideal for you. So self-evaluation is hard, to look at where you're at and go, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. I'm thankful for what God has brought me from, but I know I'm not where I need to be. And in order to get where we need to be, we have to be honest about where we're at. And so really self-evaluation, and to do it in a way that would be beneficial to you, not to evaluate yourself to other people. Because we can do that. We can compare ourselves like, okay, I'm not doing as bad as this person, or I'm not struggling like this person, or at least I'm doing this and not doing this. Because when we compare it to other people, people are not the standard. Jesus is the standard. And so self-evaluation should always be looking upward, right? We should be looking upward when we evaluate ourselves. And that can be hard and that can be tough, because Jesus, he was awesome. Jesus did so many things well and did so many things great. But we have to be able to, okay, where am I at? What am I doing? Asking ourselves those hard questions. What are my weaknesses? And what am I battling in this season? What does my thought life look like on a regular basis? Just even looking at your week. Okay, what did I do? What did I struggle with? Maybe who did I sin against, or whatever it is? You have to be able to ask yourself those hard questions. Identify patterns, identify things, identify triggers in your life. It's really just simply asking yourself the hard questions. Asking yourself the questions that you might feel uncomfortable asking, but will lead to a great harvest.
Absolutely. So asking the hard questions, finding where your problems lie definitely is good advice, but what are some practical steps? What are things that we can do, like tangibly, that will help us to be better Christians, help us to be better people?
Yeah. So self-evaluation, like I said, can be hard. And so sometimes we self-evaluate and we go, dang, I am just messed up. And I've done that time and time again. Can be very inward sometimes. And so I just look at all my different struggles and all my different failures, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with my life? And so self-evaluation, if we let it, can bring us to that place of woe is me, and I'm not worth, and all these things. But it's important that we look to the Word, because the Word is going to let us know what the standard is. Listen, the Word was God, was with God, is God. And so it's important that we look to the Word, self-evaluate our life and our thoughts and our heart and our motives according to the Word. And find comfort in that. As weird as that sounds, the Bible talks about the Word being a lamp for our feet, a light for our path. And David talks about delighting in the law and the statutes of the Lord. And so I think we can find delight in the Word, because we see maybe that standard, we see maybe our brokenness, but we also find grace in the Word, and we also find just God's love in the Word. And so we see how we should and how we ought to think and how we ought to live, and we see maybe sometimes how we don't, and whatever, struggle and battle and fight. But we also see God coming alongside, God helping His people, those who are obedient, and saying yes. Not perfect, not that they never mess up, right? But just are obedient and saying yes, how God comes, intervenes, and helps move that. And so always looking to the Word for what it is, to how you want to live, how you want to think, because there's so many different avenues, so many different things that say, okay, think like this, live like this, talk like this, walk like this. So always, number one, Get into the Word. Know the Word. Let the Word be imprinted on your heart. Let the Word fill your mind. Let the Word fill every fiber of your being. Know the Word of God. I think that's definitely number one. And number two, just constantly challenging yourself. I think, self-evaluation cannot stop at, okay, I know what the problem is. But begin to challenge yourself. Okay, here's the problem, but I'm going to challenge myself in this way. And maybe it's baby steps. Like we talked about in the last podcast, it looks different for everybody. It's not cookie cutter, it's not always instantaneous. Sometimes it's a process, sometimes it's not. But if you have to take steps, baby steps of just obedience to say, okay, I'm not this, I'm going to cut this out, I'm going to set up this border, I'm going to set up this safety, whatever it is, this safety net, but challenging yourself in those areas, looking for ways to challenge yourself and to go, okay, how can I come out of this, be released from this, begin to set my mind on something else and off of this? You really have to challenge yourself. So getting into the Word and then challenging yourself according to that Word, I think are two very helpful steps. And then what we talked about, however many podcasts ago, accountability, having somebody you say, hey, this is where I'm at. Yeah, again, being honest, and it's hard. It's already hard enough being honest with yourself about where you're at, and it's a whole nother thing to bring somebody else in. You're like, hey, this is where I'm at for real. But just being open, being transparent. This is where I'm at, but this is where I'm trying to be. This is what I'm believing God to do. And these are the things that I've set up. And maybe saying, hey, reach out. At the end of this week, reach out. There's this thing that me and my friends used to do as with the battle with lust and all those things. We would text each other and say, hey, tomorrow, ask me what I did today, right? And so puts a little strain on you. You know that tomorrow you're going to have to encounter the question, how did you do yesterday? And so you decide, am I going to make this decision? Am I going to do this thing? Am I going to fall prey to this desire and this enticing? Or am I going to stand firm? And at the end of the day, we'll stand before those people the next day and have to give an answer. And it's really a beautiful picture. We all will stand before God one day and give an account. But I think getting into the Word, challenging yourself, and again, accountability partner, just 3 simple steps that you can take.
That's awesome. Those are some great practical tips on how you can grow in your faith and become a better Christian. This has been a quick one, but thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.